You are watching the SHW Offroad Daily Drop. We do this series every single day where we essentially drop a video all about insider tips and some knowledge of things that we've gained from experience and from our friends and stuff like that. So I'm Jake, I'm with SHW Offroad, and we are a vehicle organization solutions manufacturer here in Kentucky. Today we're going to talk about tire pressure management. I did a video on it not too long ago on why it's important to manage tire pressure off-road and on-road. And today I'm going to talk about some of the tools I use for that, or some of my colleagues and stuff and friends use as well. Before we get started though, shout out to Skinny Guy Campers, repping their shirt today. If you've never heard of them, check them out. They're up in Indiana. They make some of the coolest truck bed campers ever. I'd love to have Justin from their sales team on to maybe talk about their stuff too. But without further ado, let's dive right in. Some of the tools I use that are common in the industry, in this hobby. Number one, rapid deflators. You've probably seen these before. Rapid deflators, usually they deflate one at a time and you remove the valve stem to quickly remove air from your tire to deflate. Hence the name rapid deflator. So popular ones, ARB makes one. I think Smittybilt makes one. Rhino USA might distribute one. I'm not sure who manufactures there, but check these out. They're really easy to use. They're pretty simple in their functionality, and they're affordable. So Smittybilt has one. ARB, this is the one I use. I use ARB's deflator, and it's really simple and it's really easy to use. The only con to these types of deflecting devices is they're kind of a pain to unscrew and screw in, because on each tire you're essentially removing the valve stem to let the air out, then you got to screw back in, which isn't a huge deal. But after 4 tires in the cold, it's 20 degrees out and you're screwing this metal thumb screw, it's kind of hard on your fingers and on your hands, right? So it's kind of a pain. It's labor intensive, but it is fast. It's one of the fastest methods for airing down individual tires, but it can get kind of old. You also got to be careful not to lose your valve stems with a setup like this. You need to make sure you've actually screwed your valve stem in before you remove it from the valve. So that's number one, rapid deflators. Number two, it's very common. It's really catching a lot of I guess traction in our industry, are Apex rapid deflation valve stems, right? So instead of removing, or rapid deflation, just valves in general, instead of removing the valve stem from the valve, it kind of has a little actuator in it, or it's just designed in a way that it allows air to escape really, really fast. So Apex makes these. They're really affordable. Well, I guess that depends on your take on it, but I think they're pretty affordable, and they solve the problem of all the labor involved in using one of those rapid deflators. It's not nearly as hard on your hands. It's pretty easy to use. You do have to keep an eye on it and make sure it goes down to the pressure that you want, but it releases air fast, really, really, really fast. That's probably one of the biggest pros. The cons to them, I think a failure off-road might get a little complicated. You have to break the bead to install these. So initial install can be a bit of a pain. I guess maybe you would carry a backup in case for some reason you had a failure off-road and you had to fix it. But just like any valve, you could tear a valve and have to replace it in the field. But this is just a more expensive and expensive solution that you'd have to carry a backup for and stuff like that, right? But that's an option. Apex, they're really cool. They are really, really fast, and they're not as hard on your hands. There's also a plethora of 4-way deflators out there, which are really cool. Usually these kinds of setups, if it's a 4-tire, if you watch videos or your Wheel of Friends, you'll probably see this at some point where they've got kind of an air hose going to each tire, and they've got it hooked up to each tire, and they're deflating all 4 at once. So it's cool because you're deflating all 4. Usually though, these kind of systems, they don't remove the valve stem. So they're not removing air as fast, but you're doing all 4 at the same time. So it's kind of a wash compared to rapid deflators. I still think rapid deflators are a little bit quicker, but it's nice because you can remove all 4. And if you put some kind of pressure regulator, you don't even have to babysit it. It'll just go down to the pressure you set, all 4 at the same time. And when it's done, it's done. a couple examples of manufacturers that offer these. I think it's called the Moreflate. Yeah, the Moreflate Quad. And they've got some for different wheelbases. But you set your pressure that you want, and you take each one of these to each tire, and it deflates all four at the same time. It's pretty cool. A lot of people DIY these, right? So if you want to DIY a setup like this, you can do it. It's not going to save you a ton of money. This is relatively affordable. There's not a lot of markup in this. If you price out the raw material to do this, it's not much cheaper. But a cool thing about a system like this is you can deflate all four at once, but you can also inflate all four at once, right? So it can really speed up how quick you can inflate after hitting the trail and stuff like that too. So that's another pro to the four-way deflators. A lot of them also act as four-way inflators too, which is cool. But Moreflate is again a manufactured one. You can DIY this one pretty easily as well. Lastly, certainly not least, there are tires out there with rapid release air deflator valves built into them. TerraFlex is, I think, one of the only ones that do it that I'm aware of. And they make a tire, their wheel has what they call their rapid deflator built into it, rapid deflator valve. And the wheels, they look pretty nice too. I think they might only make them for Jeeps, but check into them anyway. They have it built in where they have an inflate and a deflate valve, and you release that valve and it rapidly deflates. So there's no extra tool to deal with. It's similar to the Apex stuff. It's just kind of built around their wheel. Super effective. Again, I worry a little bit about serviceability and stuff like that, but from what I hear, it's incredibly durable. I've never really heard of a failure, and it's a great solution. It's very clean. Okay, so those are some of the tools I'm aware of that I've used or some of my friends use. If you've got more of your own, let us know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, tomorrow we're going to dive into front axle management off-road. We're going to get into why you might disconnect and some ways to easily disconnect if your vehicle is equipped with a sway bar and stuff like that. So we're going to dive into that tomorrow. We're not going to get too deep into the weeds with it. I'm going to keep it base level, and maybe in the future we can circle back and go in depth. So join me tomorrow. Thanks again for watching today, and we'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.